A 13-year-old boy walks up to a motorcycle club at dawn, the kind of place most kids cross the street to avoid. He's hungry, exhausted, but he doesn't beg. Instead, he studies the row of bikes lined up in the yard and says some quiet words, "Just let me earn a sandwich." What followed proved that sometimes the toughest-looking people have the biggest hearts. The sun hadn't fully cleared the horizon when Adam Rivers turned the corner onto Barker Street. Most 13-year-olds would have crossed to the other side. Everyone knew what sat at the end of that block. The Viper's Den MC Clubhouse wasn't the kind of place you wandered into by accident. But Adam wasn't most kids. His sneakers, more duct tape than shoe leather, scraped against the cracked pavement as he approached the chain-link fence. Behind it, a row of motorcycles gleamed in the early morning light, Harleys, choppers, dirt bikes lined up like soldiers. His stomach twisted with hunger so sharp it felt like a fist clenching inside him. He'd skipped dinner, and breakfast yesterday, and most meals the day before that. He could have begged. God knows plenty of people did in this neighborhood. But Adam had watched his mother's face every time she had to ask for help, the way something inside her seemed to crumble a little more each time. He'd promised himself he'd never look like that. The gate was open. Through it, he could see a woman in her 50s stepping out of the clubhouse with a cigarette and a coffee mug that read, "I'm not arguing. I'm just explaining why I'm right." She had gray-streaked hair pulled into a messy bun and wore a denim vest over a Grateful Dead t-shirt. Her name was Jen, though Adam didn't know that yet. She spotted him immediately. Her eyes narrowed, but she stayed quiet, watching. Adam took 3 steps forward, his voice steadier than he felt. "I can wash them." Jen took a drag from her cigarette, studying him. The kid was rail-thin, with dark circles under his eyes that looked like bruises. His jeans were 2 sizes too big, cinched with a fraying belt, and his jacket had a torn pocket hanging by threads. "Wash what exactly?" she asked. Adam pointed at the bikes. "All of them. I'm good at it." He swallowed hard, fighting to keep his voice from shaking. "Just let me earn a sandwich." Something shifted in Jen's expression. She'd seen plenty of kids in bad situations. Most asked for handouts. This one was asking for work. Behind her, 2 club members emerged from the garage. Sawyer came first, a mountain of a man whose beard reached his chest. Malik followed, younger, his arms a canvas of intricate tattoos. They sized Adam up with the kind of skepticism that comes from years of people trying to scope out the clubhouse for the wrong reasons. "He lost," Sawyer grunted. "Says he wants to wash bikes," Jen replied, not taking her eyes off Adam. "For food." Malik crossed his arms. "Kid, you know where you are?" Adam's jaw tightened. "Yeah, I know." There was something in the way he said it, proud despite everything, that made Jen stub out her cigarette. She walked over to a storage shed, pulled out a bucket, 2 rags, and a bottle of bike soap, then handed them to Adam. "Start with the dirt bikes on the left. You do a good job, you eat. You half-ass it, you leave. Deal?" Adam nodded, gripping the bucket like it was treasure. Jen disappeared inside, and Adam got to work. He filled the bucket from a hose by the fence, added soap, and started scrubbing. His hands were careful, methodical. He worked the rag into every crevice, around the spokes, under the fenders. When he found caked on mud, he didn't rush. He soaked it, let it loosen, then wiped it clean until the chrome caught the light. Inside the clubhouse kitchen, Jen fired up the griddle. She wasn't sure why she was doing this. Maybe because the kid reminded her of her younger brother before he'd straightened out. Maybe because she was tired of seeing children go hungry in a world that wasted so much. She assembled a BLT with extra bacon, thick tomato slices, crispy lettuce, and 3 layers of toasted sourdough. Then she added a mountain of fries on the side. By the time she walked back out, Adam had finished 2 bikes and was starting on a 3rd. Sawyer was watching from the garage doorway, arms still crossed, but his expression had shifted from skeptical to impressed. "Kid's thorough," he muttered to Jen as she passed. She set the plate down on a wooden picnic table near the fence. "Food's ready." Adam looked up, his eyes widening at the sight. It wasn't just a sandwich, it was the kind of meal he'd dreamed about. He set down the rag carefully, walked over, and stood there for a moment, staring. "What?" Jen asked. This This is too much. It's on credit, she said with a half smile. You finished those bikes, we're even. Adam sat down and ate like someone who'd forgotten what full felt like. He didn't inhale it. He savored every bite, closing his eyes occasionally, making the moment last. When he finished, he went back to the bikes without a word. He worked for another 2 hours until every single motorcycle in that lot shined. Then, as he was coiling the hose, he noticed the vending machine near the garage. His front panel was hanging loose, and the digital display flickered weakly. Adam glanced around, found a screwdriver in a toolbox left open by the garage, and got to work. 10 minutes later, the machine hummed back to life, its display steady and bright. Norman, who'd been watching from a shadowy corner of the garage, raised an eyebrow. The kid was a problem solver. When Adam finally left that afternoon, Jen called after him. Same time tomorrow? He turned, surprised. Really? Bikes get dirty every day, kid. Adam nodded, his shoulders a fraction less heavy than when he'd arrived, and disappeared down Barker Street. The next morning, he was back before sunrise. By the end of week 2, Adam moved through the Viper's Den like he'd always belonged there. He arrived every morning at 6. After the bikes were clean, Jen started pulling him into the kitchen during the lunch rush. Hand me that spatula, she'd say, and Adam would move like he'd been doing it for years. He had an instinct for it, knowing when to flip the burgers, sensing when the onions needed another minute on the heat. What struck Jen most was how he worked by smell and sound. He'd lean over a pan of sizzling peppers and inhale deeply, then adjust the seasoning without measuring anything. How'd you know it needed more cumin? She asked one afternoon after he'd doctored a pot of chili she'd thought was already perfect. Adam shrugged. Smelled like it needed something warm. The kid was a natural, but there was something odd she couldn't quite place. It was a Tuesday when Jen decided to test him with something new. She'd written out a recipe for her grandmother's meatloaf on an index card. Nothing fancy, just ingredients and temperatures. She handed it to Adam and told him to prep it while she ran to the store for more ground beef. When she returned 40 minutes later, the kitchen smelled incredible. Adam had the meatloaf in the oven, and somehow he'd added a glaze she'd never mentioned, something with brown sugar and a kick of cayenne. Where'd you get the glaze recipe? Jen asked, impressed. I just figured it'd taste good, Adam said, not meeting her eyes. Jen picked up the recipe card from the counter. It was still clean, untouched except for a small grease smudge in one corner. She looked at Adam, then back at the card. A theory started forming in her mind, but she kept it to herself. Norman noticed it too, though for different reasons. The club's most reclusive member spent most of his time in the back workshop, rewiring electrical systems and fixing whatever broke. He'd been a long-haul trucker for 20 years before a bad accident left him with a limp and a preference for solitude. People exhausted him. But this kid was different. Quiet, focused. Reminded Norman of himself at that age. One evening, Norman was troubleshooting a faulty headlight when Adam wandered into the workshop. The boy watched for a few minutes, then asked, "What's wrong with it?" "Wiring's crossed somewhere. Can't figure out where." Adam studied the tangle of colored wires, then pointed. "Red one's touching the green. See how it's melted a little right there?" Norman looked closer. The kid was right. He separated the wires, reconnected them properly, and the headlight blazed to life. "Good eye," Norman muttered. "You work with electrical before?" "Nah, just makes sense, you know? Different colors shouldn't touch." Norman pulled out a wiring diagram from a drawer. The schematic spread across the workbench, a maze of lines and symbols for a Harley's electrical system. "What's this say?" He pointed to a label. Adam stared at it. His finger traced the letters slowly, too slowly. Battery? Close. Alternator. Adam's face flushed. He looked away, jaw tight. Norman recognized that shame. He'd seen it before in drivers who couldn't read DOT signs, who'd memorized routes instead of reading maps. He folded the diagram and slid it back into the drawer. "I got lights out in the storage room," Norman said, his voice casual. "You figure out what's wrong. I'll show you something useful. Fair trade." Adam looked up, suspicious of kindness but desperate for it. "Like what?" Whatever you want to learn. 3 days later, Adam had the storage room lights working. Norman found him there at dusk, sitting on a crate, staring at a comic book he'd found, holding it upside down. Norman didn't say anything. He just grabbed a folding chair, sat across from Adam, and opened a motorcycle repair manual to a page with big pictures and simple words. This here, Norman said, pointing, says carburetor. Can you find that word anywhere else on the page? Adam scanned it, his finger hovering uncertainly. After a long moment, he pointed to another instance of the word. Good. Now what's this one? They worked like that for an hour. No pressure. No judgment. Just two people figuring things out together. By the end of the month, they were meeting 3 times a week. Norman brought comics, X-Men, Spider-Man, anything with pictures to anchor the words. Adam brought questions. Slowly, painfully, the letters started making sense. Small words first, 3 letters that rhymed and stuck. Then the bigger ones, the mechanical terms that mattered. Engine, throttle, gasket. Around the clubhouse, Adam started changing. He cracked jokes with Malik about football. He gave Sawyer grief about his beard getting caught in a chain. When someone called him kid, he shot back, I got a name, you know? Jen loved it. She watched him unfold, week by week, into someone who took up more space in the room. One Saturday, she handed him a gift, a black apron with assistant chef, embroidered in silver thread across the chest. Adam stared at it like she'd handed him a trophy. You serious? You earned it, Grease Buddy. The nickname stuck. The other members started using it, and Adam wore it like armor. The 3rd week of October brought a different kind of test. It was Norman who saw the envelope first. Adam had been helping him organize the workshop when it slipped from his jacket pocket. A letter with the school district's logo stamped across the top. Norman picked it up, scanned the first few lines, and his stomach sank. Final notice, attendance violations, academic probation, expulsion proceedings. That's nothing, Adam said quickly, snatching it back. I'm handling it. Handling what? You're about to get kicked out of school. It's fine. I'll figure it out. But Norman could see the panic behind the bravado. He'd seen that look before too. The desperation of someone drowning who's too proud to yell for help. Norman folded his arms. Does Jen know? Adam's silence was answer enough. We're gonna fix this, Norman said. It's not your problem. Yeah, well, neither were those lights. Didn't stop you. The letter sat on the clubhouse table, its school district logo visible from across the room. Norman had called an impromptu meeting, and now 7 members of the Viper's Den sat around it, reading the school district's ultimatum. Adam stood near the door, arms crossed, looking like he wanted to bolt. 16 unexcused absences, Sawyer read aloud. 12 incomplete assignments. Academic probation effective immediately. He looked up at Adam. Why didn't you say something? Because it's my mess, Adam shot back. I don't need charity. Jen, who'd been quiet until now, stood up. This isn't charity. This is family. And family doesn't let each other fail. Adam's throat tightened. Nobody had called him family before. Not like this. His mom tried, but some days she couldn't get out of her bedroom, let alone help with homework she didn't understand. Malik leaned forward. Talk to us. What's actually going on? Adam hesitated. Then the words spilled out. The electricity gets shut off a lot at home. Can't do homework in the dark. And the assignments, he stopped, jaw clenching. I can't read them fast enough. By the time I figure out what they're asking, it's too late to finish. Norman spoke up. He's making progress. Real progress. But the school doesn't see that. They just see missing work. Sawyer rubbed his beard thoughtfully. What if we go talk to them? Explain what's happening. They're not gonna listen to a motorcycle club, Adam muttered. Then we make them listen, Sawyer said. 2 days later, they started building. Norman cleared space in the workshop and sketched out a design. A portable LED lamp powered by a small solar panel. They pulled parts from old bike repairs. LED strips here, a battery from a retired Harley there, a solar panel Malik had bought for a camping trip that never happened. Adam watched them work, something tight loosening in his chest. Nobody had ever built anything for him before. This'll charge during the day, Norman explained, soldering wires with steady hands. At night, you'll have at least 4 hours of solid light. Maybe 5 if it's sunny. Even when the power's out, Malik added, mounting the panel to an adjustable frame. Before the weekend, Adam had his lamp. He set it up in the corner of the tiny bedroom he shared with his mom's storage boxes and his own scattered belongings. That first night, he opened his homework under steady light and felt something close to hope. But homework was only part of the problem. His organizational skills were non-existent, paper stuffed in his backpack, assignments written on random scraps, no system for tracking what was due when. Norman fixed that too. He built Adam a simple filing box with labeled folders, each one color-coded so nothing could get lost, and showed him how to log assignments on a calendar they hung in the workshop. Every day after school, you come here first, Norman said. We review what's due. We plan. Then you work. Jen handled the rest. Every morning before dawn, she packed Adam a lunch, sandwiches, fruit, granola bars, a thermos of soup when it got cold. She made sure he ate breakfast too before school. Can't learn on an empty stomach, she'd say, sliding a plate of eggs across the counter. The system worked. Slowly, Adam's missing assignments started appearing. His test scores crept upward. But the school wasn't convinced yet. That's when Sawyer volunteered for diplomacy. He walked into Roosevelt Middle School on a Wednesday afternoon wearing his full Viper's Den colors. Leather vest, patches, boots that echoed down the hallway. Parents pulled their kids closer. Teachers stared. The secretary at the front desk looked like she might call security. I'm here to see Principal Olson, Sawyer said calmly. It's about Adam Rivers. The principal's office was cramped and smelled like old coffee. Olson, a stern woman in her 50s with reading glasses on a chain, regarded Sawyer with barely concealed suspicion. You're part of the motorcycle club, she said. Not a question. Yes, ma'am. And Adam's been working with us for 2 months now. I'm here to vouch for him. Olson's eyebrows rose. Vouch for him? Sawyer pulled out his phone, showed her photos. Adam working in the kitchen, studying with Norman, organizing his school materials. This kid shows up every day. Works harder than most adults I know. He's learning to read better, learning responsibility. He just needed people to believe in him. Mr. Rivers has missed significant class time because he didn't have light to study by. We fixed that. He couldn't organize his work. We fixed that too. He's turning this around, but he needs time. Olson studied the photos, then looked at Sawyer, really looked at him. She saw the patches, yes. But she also saw someone who'd taken the time to show up, to advocate, to care. I've worked in this district for 23 years, she said slowly. Know how many parents show up to fight for their kids? She paused. Not enough. And never a motorcycle club. Sawyer met her gaze. He's a good kid who got dealt a bad hand. All we're asking for is a fair shot. Olson was quiet for a long moment. Then she opened Adam's file, made a note, and looked back up. 6 months probation. He submits every assignment, shows improvement in attendance and test scores, and we revisit this. But one more violation, just one, and we're done. Understood. Understood, Sawyer said. When he told Adam the news that evening, the boy didn't celebrate. He just nodded, the weight of the second chance settling over him like responsibility. Don't make me look stupid, Sawyer said, not unkindly. I won't, Adam promised. And he meant it. 5 months into probation, Adam's report card arrived. Solid grades across the board and every single assignment turned in. Norman pinned it to the workshop bulletin board like a medal of honor. Adam tried to act like it didn't matter, but Jen caught him staring at it when he thought no one was looking. His reading had improved enough that he could get through most assignments without help, though he still met with Norman twice a week. They'd graduated from comics to actual books, nothing fancy, mostly adventure novels with short chapters. Adam's favorite was about a kid who built a boat and sailed away from everything. Norman suspected he understood why. It was a Tuesday afternoon in late April when Jen walked into the kitchen holding a flyer. There's a junior culinary contest next month. Regional thing. Schools can enter 1 student. Adam looked up from the onions he was dicing. Okay. You should enter. The knife stilled in his hand. Me? Yeah, you. Who else am I talking to? Jen, I can't, those things are for kids from cooking schools. Kids with fancy equipment and kids with half your talent. She crossed her arms. Listen, Grease Buddy. I've been cooking for 30 years. You've got something most people never develop, instinct. You taste something once and know exactly what it needs. That's rare. Adam set down the knife. The idea terrified him. But somewhere beneath the fear, curiosity pushed back. What would I even make? Jen smiled. I've got an idea. They spent 2 weeks perfecting it. The Viper's Fire BLT, Adam's name, insisted on by the entire club. It started with Jen's original sandwich, the one she'd made him that first morning. But Adam elevated it. He added a chipotle aioli made from scratch, experimented with different bacon seasonings until he found the right balance of sweet and heat, and incorporated Jen's secret spice blend into a tomato jam that made the whole thing sing. That's a winner, Malik declared after trying the final version. No question. The contest was at the community college downtown. Adam filled out the entry form himself, handwriting each letter carefully. Under school, he wrote Roosevelt Middle School. Under inspiration, he wrote, the people who taught me that food is about dignity. The morning of the competition, Adam's stomach felt like it was trying to escape his body. He stood in the college's industrial kitchen, surrounded by 15 other kids, and immediately wanted to disappear. They had custom knife sets in leather rolls, professional aprons. One girl even had her own sous vide machine. Adam had a borrowed knife from Jen, ingredients in a cooler, and hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Hey! Norman appeared beside him, having driven Adam to the venue. You see those fancy tools? Yeah. They don't mean anything. You know why? Norman waited until Adam looked at him. Cooking comes down to what you do with what you've got. You've been making magic with a griddle and a dream. Don't forget that now. The competition began. Adam focused on his station, blocking out everything else. He cooked the bacon slowly, rendering the fat until it was perfect. The aioli came together silky and smooth. He toasted the bread on a cast-iron skillet he'd insisted on bringing. Electric toasters don't get it right, he told Jen. When he assembled the sandwich, his hands were finally steady. He plated it simply. The BLT cut diagonally, a small side of the tomato jam, fresh herbs as garnish. Nothing fancy, just honest food, made with care. The judges moved down the line, tasting, making notes. When they reached Adam's station, he explained his dish quietly. It's called Viper's Fire BLT. The chipotle aioli adds heat, the tomato jam adds depth, and the spice blend, that's from the woman who taught me that feeding people is about more than food. It's about respect. One judge, a chef from a downtown restaurant, took a bite. Then another. He looked at Adam with genuine surprise. This is exceptional. The flavors are balanced, sophisticated. How long have you been cooking? 6 months, Adam said. Professionally, at a clubhouse. 6 months. Another judge leaned in. Who trained you? A motorcycle club. The judges exchanged glances. One of them smiled. When they announced the winners, Adam's hands were shaking again. Third place went to a boy with the sous vide machine. First place went to a girl who'd made a deconstructed Eggs Benedict that looked like art. Second place, the head judge announced, goes to Adam Rivers, Roosevelt Middle School, 4 Vipers Fire BLT. The clubhouse erupted. Adam hadn't even realized they were there. Jen, Norman, Sawyer, Malik, and 5 other members, sitting in the back row of the auditorium. They stood up cheering like he'd just won Olympic gold. At the awards dinner that evening, each winner gave a short speech. The third-place kid thanked his culinary school. The first-place girl thanked her parents and her private instructor. Adam stood at the microphone, a certificate in his hand and a small trophy shaped like a chef's hat. The audience waited. He looked out, found the Vipers in the back, and his voice came out steadier than he expected. I don't have a culinary school or fancy equipment. Months ago, I showed up at a motorcycle club asking to wash bikes for a sandwich. I didn't expect anyone to care. But Miss Jen gave me that sandwich. Then she taught me to cook. Norman taught me to read. The whole club taught me that dignity isn't about what you have. It's about showing up and doing the work. His voice cracked slightly. So I'm not thanking the judges. I'm thanking Miss Jen, the Vipers, and Norman, my first real teachers. The applause was thunderous. Today, Adam runs the grill at Viper's Den 2 nights a week. His probation at school ended last month. They'd offered to erase it from his record entirely, given his turnaround. He declined. I earned that second chance, he'd said. I want to remember it. His vest hangs on a hook by the kitchen, next to Jen's. On the back, a patch sewn on by Norman himself reads, "Earned, not given." And every morning, before school, Adam still shows up early. Not to wash bikes anymore. He helps Jen prep breakfast for the club and keeps extra ingredients on hand. Because he remembers what it felt like to be hungry with nowhere to go. And he remembers the words that changed everything. Just let me earn a sandwich. Adam's story reminds us that dignity isn't about what you have. It's about how you show up, even when you have nothing. A sandwich turned into a second chance, and a motorcycle club became a family. Would you have given him a chance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Embrace the Journey for more stories that prove kindness changes lives. See you in our next video.